So the Indiana Fever have an opportunity tonight to do something that they have not done in like maybe ever. Something that they have not done since minimum Tamika Catchings era, and it is be the number 1 seed for any period of time in the WNBA. Because if they win tonight, yes, there is a windows open, a very good chance that it is a 3-way tie. There's a very good chance the Aces beat the Wings.
Stephanie White couldn't believe her eyes as the final buzzer sounded and the reality of the situation set in. The landscape of the WNBA just shifted in a way nobody thought possible after 15 long years of mediocrity. Caitlin Clark didn't just win a game. She shattered the hierarchy of the entire league in a single night. The Indiana Fever, a team that was once the laughingstock of professional basketball, just clawed their way to the number 1 seed. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated chaos that left veteran coaches fuming on the sidelines. The shockwaves are still vibrating through every locker room, and the era of dominance we once knew is officially over.
Yes, there is a windows open, a very good chance that it is a 3-way tie. There's a very good chance the Aces beat the Wings, and there's a very good chance that, and obviously the Minnesota Lynx are the same. They will be tied first after a non-insignificant amount of games. After 7 games, 5-2. And if they win this game, if they lose this game, the Valks go into first. Tied first as well. So this is an important one. And they haven't had the most difficult start to the year. Like, Dallas are okay.
The tension leading up to this moment was palpable, especially with the way the schedule has been playing out. The Fever were coming off very little rhythm, trying to turn a 3-game winning streak into a 4-game statement. Everyone in the building knew what was at stake. If they pulled this off, it wouldn't just be a win, it would be a total restructuring of power. The critics said they hadn't faced the most difficult start to the year, pointing at teams like Washington and Atlanta, but tonight changed the narrative. You could see it in the eyes of the opposing coaching staff. This wasn't the same Indiana team that started the season shaking. They have become a legitimate threat to the title.
And the Fever are coming off very little rhythm in this game. 3 wins in a row, trying to make it 4. If they can pull this one off, this will be huge. So let's see what Vegas thinks about this game. Look, again, I'm not a gambler, but basically, according to ESPN, so it's the favorites to win this game are the Valks, and I'm actually okay with that. I think that's probably the way to go. Look, if you're looking for expectations here,
as the game unfolded, it became clear that this was a classic case of styles making fights. We had the best offense in terms of points per game going head-to-head against one of the most suffocating defenses in the league. The Valks came into this matchup with the 5th best defense, sitting 3rd in turnover percentage. They were built to disrupt and destroy, but Caitlin Clark had other plans. When you have an offense that refuses to be contained, even the most disciplined defensive schemes start to crumble. The Indian Fever decided they were going to control the pace from the jump, and once they started cooking, there was absolutely no way to stop the heat.
I have a weird feeling Tiffany Hayes is going to cook. I think she's going to go and cook. And for being real, like, look at the matchup of these two teams. The Fever are the 5th best offense in EFG, but also Valks are the 5th best defense. They are 3rd in turnover percentage. Forcing turnover percentage. The Indiana Fever are 9th to 15 in turnover percentage, which isn't ideal. Ironically, they turn the ball over more when Caitlin's off the floor. But look, their team doesn't really foul, but you've got the best offense points per game wise versus the best defense points per game wise. Like, this is a styles make fights.
The previous matchup between these two teams had been a bitter pill to swallow for Indiana. In that game, the Valks looked like they were in complete control early on, heading into halftime with a solid lead. But something changed in that 3rd quarter that would define the rest of the season. The Fever found a rhythm that nobody could mirror. We saw the infamous moment where Caitlin Clark got right in Tiffany Hayes' face, a moment of raw aggression that signaled a shift in the team's DNA. That 48-all tie was the turning point for the entire franchise. It wasn't just about a three-point shot, it was about a team finally finding its teeth and refusing to back down from the Giants.
But you've got the best offense points per game wise versus the best defense points per game wise. Like, this is a styles make fights. And this is one of these ones where stylistically you have completely opposing styles. And it is one of these things where the Indiana Fever are going to control this game. If they want to, they're going to control this game, because if they start absolutely cooking, they're not going to be stopped. Like, we saw it in the third quarter, the last game.
One of the biggest tactical blunders we saw from the opposition was the decision to switch into a zone defense. In the WNBA, playing zone against a shooter like Caitlin Clark is essentially basketball suicide. The Valks went into that zone and they got punished immediately. You cannot give an elite playmaker that much space to breathe, yet they did it anyway. Raven Johnson was out there kicking the ball to Clark, who was hunting for those legendary 30-foot shots. The ESPN numbers might try to claim they were shorter, but anyone with eyes saw her nearly hugging the logo. When she starts hitting from that distance, the entire defensive structure of an opponent just dissolves into pure panic.
The Fever pulled away in that third. They pulled away in that third. The Valks, as crazy as it sounds, like, the Valks very much part of the reason they lost this game was because they went into a zone. Like, they went into a zone. It's as simple as that. Like, the Valks went zone and they got punished. So where's this time with Raven Johnson? Like, Raven Johnson goes and kicks to Caitlin. Also, the ESPN numbers are just inaccurate. Caitlin Clark makes 30-foot shot. That was like a one where she nearly hugged the line. Like, if every single three-point shot, of course.
The statistical anomalies in this game were honestly staggering to look at. The Valks are not a great offensive team, ranking last in two-point percentage despite being second in three-point attempts. They shoot a miserable 42% from inside the line, which means they rely almost entirely on volume and chaos. On the other side, the Fever aren't known for their defense either. They have struggled to find a consistent identity on that end of the floor, yet they found a way to bridge the gap. It was a battle of flaws where the team with the most explosive superstars simply outlasted the team with the most disciplined system. It was ugly, it was gritty, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Caitlin. Also, the ESPN numbers are just inaccurate. Caitlin Clark makes 30-foot shot. That was like a one where she nearly hugged the line. Like, if every single three-point shot, according to almost every single one, if it's a miss, it can be 23 foot. If somebody makes a three-point shot, it's just 28 feet. Like, there are crazy numbers according to ESPN. But overall, I do feel like this is a game that's almost too close to call. Like, if you look at offense v offense, this is not a great offensive team. This team is 9th in points per game. This is a team that doesn't turn the ball over, but, like, all the not really turning the ball over means is that they get a lot of shots. They're last in two-point percentage. They are second in three-point percentage.
There is a weird narrative surrounding the Fever's rebounding that needs to be addressed. They are technically last in the league in rebounds, but there is a psychological reason for that. Teams aren't dumbasses. They realize they have to sprint back on defense the second a shot goes up to prevent the Clark transition. This means Indiana doesn't get many offensive boards, but it also means they are dictating how their opponents play. Players like Aaliyah Boston and Money Billings are tipping rebounds and creating second chances that don't always show up perfectly in the box score. They are sacrificing traditional stats to create a fast break environment that favors their primary scoring threats.
And they chuck a lot of threes. But, like, they're last in field goal percentage as a team and last in two-point percentage. They shoot 42%, 3% from inside the two-point line. The Valks are not a good offensive team. And when it comes to defense for the Fever aren't a good defensive team either. Like, the Fever absolutely are not a good defensive team. They are, they rebound well. But you want to know why they rebound well? Because teams aren't dumbasses. Teams realize that they got to go back on defense. Offensive rebounding is impressive. A lot of that is Lexi Hull. Money Billings,
The assist to turnover ratio for this team is another area where the drama is hiding. Caitlin Clark is sitting near a 2-to-1 ratio, which is elite for a rookie under this much pressure. However, the rest of the team not named Clark is struggling with a negative ratio. This creates a massive burden on the rookie to be perfect every single possession. When the ball leaves her hands, the efficiency drops off a cliff. This is exactly why Stephanie White and other coaches are so frustrated. They can see the vulnerability in the roster, yet they still can't find a way to exploit it because Clark's individual brilliance is masking all the cracks in the foundation of the team. Expectations for this game were all over the place, with some analysts favoring the home team simply because of the rhythm issues Indiana has faced. But the gut feeling in the arena was different. People expected Clark to end up with the most points, and she delivered. But the real surprise was how Tiffany Hayes started cooking. She was relentless, attacking the rim and forcing the Fever to adjust on the fly. It turned into a high-stakes chess match where every move was met with an equal and opposite reaction. The crowd was on the edge of their seats because they knew they were watching history. The Fever weren't just playing for a win, they were playing for respect. What makes this #1-seed achievement so unbelievable is the sheer lack of rhythm the team has had to deal with. Going from a Saturday game to a Thursday game is a nightmare for a young squad trying to find its footing. It is tough to keep the momentum going when you have these long breaks, yet the Fever managed to stay sharp. They didn't let the week-long gaps dull their competitive edge. Instead, they used that time to study the tape and realize where they were being punished. They identified that their turnover percentage, while not ideal, was actually better than the league average in high-pressure situations. They leaned into their strengths and ignored the noise. The atmosphere in the locker room after the game was described as electric, but for the rest of the league it felt like a warning shot. Stephanie White's reaction was a mix of professional respect and genuine concern for the status quo. When a team like Indiana, which has been in the basement for over a decade, suddenly ascends to the top, it threatens the job security of everyone else. The pesky label is gone. They aren't just a team that plays hard, they are a team that wins when it matters most. They are pulling off blowout wins against teams like the Fire and holding their own against the heavy hitters. The narrative has officially flipped. Looking back at the game, the third quarter was really where the Valks lost their grip on the season. They had a 7-point lead and felt like they were cruising. But in the WNBA, a 7-point lead against a high-octane offense is nothing. The Fever erased that deficit in what felt like seconds. It wasn't just the scoring, it was the defensive energy that suddenly appeared. They started forcing turnovers and turning them into easy transition buckets. By the time the fourth quarter started, the momentum had shifted so heavily that the outcome felt inevitable. The Valks looked shell-shocked, unable to respond to the sudden surge of energy from the Indiana bench. The controversy over the zone defense will likely be talked about for weeks. It was a desperate move that signaled the opposition had run out of ideas. When you see a coach of Stephanie White's caliber watching another team fall into that trap, you can see the wheels turning. She knows that to beat this Fever team, you have to be more aggressive, not less. You have to meet them at the level of their intensity. Instead, the Valks tried to play it safe and hide in a defensive shell, and Caitlin Clark cracked that shell wide open. It was a coaching masterclass in what not to do when a superstar is feeling the rhythm from deep. Let's talk about those 30-footers again because they are changing the way the game is officiated and tracked. The tracking data often fails to capture the sheer audacity of where Clark is shooting from. When you have a player who can pull up from the logo, it forces the defense to extend 25 feet away from the basket. This opens up massive lanes for the rest of the team to exploit. Even if her shooting percentage fluctuates, the gravity she creates on the floor is unlike anything we have ever seen in the women's game. It's why Indiana is suddenly the most dangerous team in the league, regardless of what the traditional stats might suggest. The rebounding struggle is real, but it's also a choice. By being last in rebounds, the Fever are effectively saying they don't care about the second chance points, as much as they care about preventing the transition. It's a bold strategy that relies on high efficiency shooting. If you miss, you're in trouble, but when you're hitting shots at the rate they are, you don't need a million offensive rebounds. You just need to make sure the other team doesn't get easy buckets on the other end. This high-risk, high-reward philosophy is exactly what has propelled them to the top seed. It's unconventional, it's controversial, and right now, it is working perfectly. The internal dynamics of the team are also starting to solidify. While the assist-to-turnover ratio outside of Clark is a concern, the chemistry is clearly growing. You can see it in the way they celebrate the small wins on the floor. There was a time earlier this season where they looked like a group of individuals, but now they look like a unit. Money Billings and Aaliyah Boston are doing the dirty work that doesn't get the headlines, allowing Clark to be the superstar she was born to be. It's a symbiotic relationship that has finally reached its potential. They aren't just winning for themselves, they are winning for a city that has waited way too long. Stephanie White knows that the road to the championship now goes through Indiana, and that is a terrifying prospect for the veteran coaches. The Fever have the youth, the speed, and the most marketable player in the history of the sport. They also have the confidence of a team that knows they can come back from any deficit. When you combine that with a home court advantage that is becoming the loudest in the league, you have a recipe for a dynasty. The unbelievable #1 seed isn't a fluke. It's the result of a perfectly timed explosion of talent and coaching. The league was warned, but they weren't ready for the reality. The historical significance of this moment cannot be overstated. 15 years is a lifetime in professional sports. To go from the bottom to the absolute top in such a short window of time is a testament to the impact of a generational talent. We saw it with the greats of the past, and we are seeing it again right now. The Fever are no longer the pesky underdogs that teams hope to avoid. They are the targets. Every other team in the league is now circling their games on the calendar, looking for a way to prove that the rookie's reign is premature. But if tonight was any indication, they have a long wait ahead of them. As we look forward to the next stretch of games, the schedule remains a challenge. With more week-long breaks on the horizon, the Fever will have to prove they can maintain this level of excellence without the benefit of a daily rhythm. They have Washington, New York, and Atlanta coming up, and none of those games will be easy. New York in particular is looking for revenge, and they won't make the same mistakes the Valks did. The target on Indiana's back has never been larger, and the pressure to hold on to that #1 seed will be immense. Every possession will be scrutinized by the entire basketball world. The debate over the real stats versus the eye test will continue to rage on social media. Critics will point to the rebounding numbers and the turnover ratios as proof that this success is unsustainable. They will say that the Fever are lucky or that their opponents are underperforming. But anyone who actually watches the games can see the truth. There is a different energy in the gym when this team takes the floor. There is a sense of inevitability when Caitlin Clark crosses half court. You can't quantify heart, and you certainly can't quantify the fear that an elite shooter puts into the hearts of the opposition. The league is in a state of shock, and the fans are loving every second of it. The three-way tie at the top has created a level of parity and excitement that the WNBA hasn't seen in years. Whether the Fever can stay at the #1 seed for the rest of the season remains to be seen, but they have already accomplished the impossible. They have forced the world to take them seriously. They have silenced the doubters who said a rookie couldn't lead a team to the top. Most importantly, they have brought a winning culture back to Indiana, and that is something that no statistical analysis can ever take away. Ultimately, this season is becoming a masterclass in how one player can change the gravity of an entire sport. Stephanie White's reaction was just a symptom of a much larger shift in the basketball universe. The Indiana Fever have secured their spot in history, and they did it by being unapologetically bold. Whether you love them or hate them, you cannot ignore them. The era of the Fever is here, and if tonight was a preview of what's to come, the rest of the league better find a way to adapt before they get left behind in the dust of a 30-foot jumper.